Skype. You and your colleagues have been highly critical of President Trump for this phone call to President Duterte, some mentioning you'd be inviting a self-confessed killer into the White House. Why is this Philippines president subject of so much criticism?
Well, I mean, Duterte says he's been fighting hard to get rid of his country of drugs, but the reality is he's actually pursuing a murderous war against the poor that we've seen result in the violent deaths of thousands of Filipinos. I mean, you're inviting someone like that to the White House. In most cases, you would be trying to figure out how to not meet them at the UN. Then give them a red carpet welcome at the White House, I think is really beyond the pale. I mean, we have found that, there is an ongoing pattern of unlawful police conduct in these killings. I mean, and these are being encouraged directly by Duterte. He has called on the police to kill drug addicts. And guess what? It's happening. And it's happening on a daily basis, and it's particularly targeting the poor. So Duterte has a lot to answer for. There's a lot of discussion about having him brought before a Human Rights Council with some sort of independent international investigation. So to invite someone like this to the White House, saying that this is all about North Korea, I don't really think passes the last test. I think that there's something else going on.
But Phil, we do have to keep in mind the fact that Duterte is a democratically elected leader. He continues to enjoy high public approval ratings despite criticism from human rights groups like your own. Does that show that Filipinos don't really make a big priority out of human rights?
I think that there's a lot of reasons why he continues to have high popularity ratings. Part of it is that he's not from the elite population. Part of it is that because he's from the other parts of the Philippines in the south. Part of it is also connected, I think, to his straight-speaking style. But I think that if you examine what is happening in these killings, there's a lot of people who are very unhappy, and there are a lot of people who are intimidated to speak out about this. I mean, we see an internet troll army really going after anybody who says anything on social media in the Philippines about Duterte in a negative sense. So we have seen that ourselves. We've experienced that ourselves. So people are being intimidated. People are fearful, and I think that that is certainly also an issue that has to be taken into account.
And certainly one of his most outspoken critics, Senator De Lima, has been jailed last February in what she claims is politically motivated, though it is said to be related to drug money and drug offenses and corruption. Let's go to the Trump administration now, because President Trump seems to have a certain affinity for some of these polarizing strongmen. The Egyptian president comes to mind, and recently he called the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, before the dust had even settled on a controversial referendum in Turkey granting that president sweeping new powers. So do you see a broader pattern from the Trump administration when it comes to these self-styled strongmen around the world?
Well, I think what we're seeing is a complete abandonment of any sort of commitment to human rights as a core principle of U.S. foreign policy. There's been a long-time bipartisan consensus around the issue of human rights dating really back to the 1980s, where human rights was considered one of the core pieces of any foreign policy decision. And it seems that the Trump administration is abandoning this. And these high-profile invitations to people like Sisi, to Duterte, the call to the president of Turkey, these are, I think, significant indicators of the Trump's foreign policy failings on human rights. I mean, we're, I think, really in for a very rough ride when we talk about what the U.S. is going to do and who they're going to be inviting to the White House over the next 4 years.